Yeah, okay. Anyway, I'd like to welcome the representatives of Western New York Regional Economic Development Council. It's great to see all of you, and this is our kickoff for this year's SIAT. What does SIAT stand for again? That's what it is. And so, I know. So depending on where you live in the state, it's either SIAT or SIAT. I haven't figured it out. We're looking forward to hearing your presentation. We're always thrilled to be in this region. I want to introduce you to my colleagues on the SIAT. To my right is Brian Stratton, Director of Canals, New York State Canals Corporation. I'm sure he's also well known up here. And to my left, always to my left, is Roberta Reardon, Commissioner of Department of Labor, who has more mileage than I do around the state. We're in competition, and who was with us last year. And Brian is joining us this year on the SIAT for these tours. So we have other commissioners who are on the SIAT, but they'll join us at different times during the week. And we also have some legislators. We'll see if they show up today. I'm Rosanna Rosado, the New York State Secretary of State. I have the privilege of chairing the SIAT. I would like to remind you that you have 30 minutes for your presentation, which will then be followed by a Q&A of about 30 minutes. So I invite you now to make your presentation. And we should start with introducing yourselves, right?
Yeah, thank you. It's my privilege to welcome you all to Western New York. Thank you for your interest in our status report. Most of you know me. I'm Jeff Belt, and Brenda McDuffie. We've been members of this REDC since the beginning, and we've presented to you before. Brenda is CEO and president of the Buffalo Urban League, and I have a small high-tech manufacturing business down in Olien. My co-chair is Dr. Ginny Horvath, and she co-led our presentation in Albany last year. She's the president of SUNY Fredonia. Dr. Candace Johnson is president and CEO of Roswell Park Cancer Institute here in Buffalo, and we're really pleased to have her helping us out with this presentation today, not least because she's probably the only one of us who can pronounce the words that she's going to tell you. And she's been a great resource to the Red Sea from the beginning, helping us formulate our strategy back in 2011. It's my special honor to introduce my mayor. Mayor Bill Aleo is from Olien, and he's going to present Olien's ambitious REDC vision, goals. I also think that it's important that you know some of the people who make it all happen. Chris Shefflin, Mike Ball lead the ESD office here in Buffalo. Mo and Lynn make it all happen. Mo's superpower is that he seems to be everywhere just when he needs to be, and there might be more than one of him. Anyway, before we get down to work, we wanted to share the opening video from our 43 North World's Biggest Business Plan competition, and I think we'll see that now.
An object at rest stays at rest.
An object in motion stays in motion.
With the same speed and in the same direction.
Unless acted upon by an unbalanced force.
Newton's law of inertia guides everything around us,
including the city we live in.
And we will not rest.
We will push against the forces that try and slow our momentum.
We have one direction. We move forward.
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 We move forward together.
That's going to be a tough act to follow, especially that little girl at the end, a lot of pressure. But working hand in hand with New York State, Our region has been successful in changing the needle of economic indicators, the investment climate, by advancing local strategies that directly align with New York State's economic development strategies of placemaking, innovation, workforce development, and tradable sectors. And our region's image is changing in ways that recognize the success that we've had. We wanted to improve the image of Western New York because we recognize that image is both a leading indicator and a necessary condition for economic renewal. Now positive stories are appearing across the country, and they've all seen our resurgence. In 2017, Time Magazine listed Buffalo among 25 cities where millennials are moving. This is a tremendous turnaround after nearly 4 decades of brain drain. The strategies, the collaboration, outreach, and investments in Western New York are paying off. To 2016, and through the CFA, the state has invested more than $170 million in almost 500 projects with a cost award ratio of about 5-to-1. And since 2011, ESD has really poured it in, $2.1 billion. This has occurred through 89 priority projects of our REDC, through Excelsior tax credits, and most importantly, the Buffalo Billion investments and other grants and loans. The project slate was worth more than $6 billion. These projects have retained nearly 50,000 jobs and created over 18,000 new jobs, and still going. Our REDC included smart growth and placemaking as core enabling strategies right from the very beginning, which is why we have so much progress to report in this respect. A couple of dozen municipalities, large and small, have leveraged REDC-directed state investments to burnish the unique and the authentic assets in their downtowns and begin their journey toward revitalization. If you drive around, you can see the renewal, and smart growth indicators point to a better, more sustainable economic future across the region. But perhaps most importantly, we're seeing that people with choices are choosing to live in our communities again. The Buffalo Billion Phase 2 includes the revitalization of Buffalo's east side, which has long been stalled by disinvestment. There will be more Better Buffalo Fund projects, which are revitalizing the city's neighborhood commercial districts. We'll advance more projects to activate our vast waterfront. We're redeveloping the Bethlehem Steel site into a modern industrial park. And we've created the Smart Growth Community Fund to plant the seeds of downtown revitalization in multiple small cities and villages. Governor Cuomo's program, the Downtown Revitalization Initiative, directly aligns with our smart growth and placemaking principles, and this gave us a bit of a leg up because our region was already thinking of downtown revitalization as a necessary precursor for economic development. We performed extensive outreach, and we were rewarded with 12 really solid applications from communities large and small. Their applications spurred them to develop consensus around visions and projects aligned with REDC strategies, which really set them up very well for CFA applications. I guess that's my way of saying that there were really no losers, but it is my distinct pleasure to introduce our Western Region DRI winner this year, and that's the city of Olien. It's compact, it has a postcard pretty historic downtown, surrounded by still solid residential neighborhoods. Olien has strong employers and anchor institutions, and they've worked really hard these past 6 years to become ready for the rocket fuel that a DRI provides. For instance, this big roundabout that you see in the foreground reveals how they completely reimagined and then rebuilt their main street through a project called Walkable Olien that was first prioritized by our REDC in 2011. And from that, they won and implemented a Tiger grant, plus a big grant from Environmental Facilities Corporation. Olien has also done their homework insofar as they have a complete streets policy. They have an adaptive use policy, a form-based zoning code, both a downtown commercial and a near downtown residential historic district. They undertook a downtown revitalization market study, and they've nearly completed their local waterfront renewal plan. So it's my honor now to invite Mayor Bill Elio to introduce Olien's vision and projects for DRI success.
Thank you, and thanks for the opportunity to speak here today. Olien's vision is to make our city vibrant and our residents optimistic about the opportunities to work, learn, and thrive in Olien. Buildings on the newly completed walkable Olien North Union Street restoration project, which have already sparked investment towards this vision. The proposed DRI projects include adaptive reuse of historic structures, business expansion projects, placemaking, and infill development to include affordable housing for downtown workers, college students, and senior citizens. These projects will accelerate the vibrant renewal of downtown Olien, ensuring the growth of a diverse population of additional residents, including young, college-educated residents, and will catalyze a various cycle of private investment. Olien is committed to development adhering to smart growth principles. Olien's most recent revitalization efforts began with the walkable Olien project and implementation of the North Union Street Streetscape project. Olien will expand upon these efforts by creating economic opportunities through adaptive reuse historic structures and creating a range of housing opportunities in the downtown neighborhoods. To foster a culture of entrepreneurship, Olien has a unique partnership with the Olien Area Executive Alliance, a network of executive leaders from the area's largest employers, and Olien Business Development, which serves as a conduit between the city and private sector to improve our local business climate. The new Olien Business Development Center offers business startup assistance to expand the region's entrepreneurship pipeline. Olien will continue to build upon its manufacturing and healthcare industries and will foster bludgeoning and agritourism, industrial thought, and investments in the Olien Farmers Market, a proposed commercial kitchen, and brewery expansion. The presence of JCC and its new Manufacturing Technology Institute in downtown Olien is an important workforce development asset and will help Olien realize its vision to attract a dynamic workforce and support proposed business expansion projects.
Tourism is a significant employer in the region. It is powered by the strength of our unique tourism assets. The region has seen increase in visitor spending and tourism jobs and wages. The council invested in projects like Niagara Falls Culinary Institute, Herschel Carousel Factory Museum, and Allegheny State Park, and ongoing priority projects including the National Comedy Center in Jamestown. Tourism assets such as the Colored Musicians Club, Lit City, Palace Theater, and Erie Canal Museum leveraged capital, marketing, and operations dollars to enhance our tourism product to increase visitors and revenues. Western New York continues to focus on Niagara Falls, implementing projects like the Riverway and Niagara Gorge Corridor and the restoration of the historic Hotel Niagara that serve as a catalyst for tourism growth throughout the entire region. Buffalo Billion Phase 2 includes the redevelopment of key properties in downtown Niagara Falls and ecological improvements to the Niagara Gorge and completing major tourism drivers like our Frank Lloyd Wright masterpieces and the National Comedy Center.
Aligning with New York State's core workforce strategy to advance economic development, our Western New York Regional Economic Development Council fosters job training and education to ensure jobs in high demand, high wage, tradable sectors are filled in an equitable way, representing all citizenry in Erie, Niagara, and all of the counties in Western New York. Projects like the Center for the Arts and Technology and the Finishing Institute are contributing to the growing network of training and apprenticeship programs in this area. In 2016-17, JCC in Olien, 2 manufacturing training institutes opened, while in the city of Buffalo on the east side, Gerard's Place expansion is underway and will offer vocational training to those citizens most in need. The Buffalo Niagara Labor Market Assessment, commissioned by Invest Buffalo Niagara in 2017, identified skill gaps and the availability of workforce training opportunities. Helping to address these gaps, and due to open in 2018, is the Workforce Training Center at Northland, again, on the east side of Buffalo, anchored in a Northland corridor. It is an industry-driven, private-public partnership that will provide a comprehensive model to build a workforce for manufacturers and the energy sector. The center is a game changer. It brings best practice models for the region. Buffalo Billion 2 projects include the Workforce Development Challenge, the Light Rail Extension, and the East Side Revitalization initiatives that are a unique combination of projects that address the strategies in our community and region's opportunity agenda. Through priority projects that drive commercialization of new innovation like the Center for Computational Research to those that encourage local and more diverse small business growth like the Olien Business Incubator Center and the Broadway Market, the Western New York REDC is boosting entrepreneurial activity across the spectrum of business types and geography. The state's Innovative Hotspot and Business Incubator support programs are supporting an extraordinary partnership among 9 of the region's incubators, allowing for new and expanding programming and greater access to incubator facilities across this region. Building on the region's increase in entrepreneurial activities, in the Buffalo Billion Phase 2, we are continuing to invest in 43 North, as you saw in the video, and building a comprehensive network of entrepreneurial support through new innovation hubs, leveraging partnership organizations to accelerate the growth of life sciences and technology startups in our region.
So the council has consistently invested in the medical campus and the activities associated with it. It's really been a remarkable sort of transformation. If you go down there, you were there 5-6 years ago, and you go now, it's remarkable. A couple things to highlight. The OmniSeek, we were fortunate to receive $5 million of monies in the very first tranche of the economic development. That led to a company, OmniSeek. It employs over 50 individuals. This past month, they just did another Series B investment with LabCorp, which is a multi-billion-dollar company around the country that will now distribute OmniSeek and their test throughout the U.S. and the globe, which is very significant and will lead to the expansion. And this all started from the initial investment. This has also improved the lives of many cancer patients in our area who have been availed of this test. The remarkable stories sort of go on and on with this precision medicine approaches. The Simulation Center that UB received funds for trains nurses and surgeons and trainees from around the country. Also partners with our robotic surgery training program that Krashid Guru leads, that brings people from all over the world to do robotic surgery. So it's just been so significant. The other issue is we've had in the health science area significant assets in economic development. Amri has come here. They've hired people. They're developing new drugs. The John Oshai Children's Hospital received funds. That's just going to be such a remarkable thing for our children in Western New York. We are partnering with them to deliver the very best pediatric oncology care. We just opened the outpatient clinic that's going to treat not only kids with cancer, but kids with sickle cell disease and clotting disorders. This wouldn't have happened without all of us coming together and the so needed dollars that you guys have provided. So thank you very much.
Advanced manufacturing has always been a key sector focus because it represents such a large part of our total economy and because it's a tradable sector. It brings wealth to our region because we're selling high-value products elsewhere. This past year, Alfred State College's Sustainable Advanced Manufacturing Center and Alfred University's Center for High-Temperature Materials Characterization both opened in Allegheny County. And here in Buffalo, Buffalo Manufacturing Works celebrated their second anniversary. You'll pay them a visit this afternoon. It's a shared product and process development lab that helps companies create competitive advantages. They've already performed 90 projects for $3 million with over $25 million in economic impact, and they've just begun. At the former Republic Steel brownfield on the Buffalo River, Tesla, in partnership with Panasonic, is ramping up production of solar panels and solar shingles. These are breakthrough technologies that will be first mass-produced right here in New York. We're further supporting Tesla, Panasonic, and all of the region's advanced manufacturers with workforce training. We think workforce development could give our region a durable competitive advantage because the best employers these days are choosing locations based on workforce quality more than any other reason. We're proud to advance 25 priority projects with a cost award ratio of 5-to-1 that aspire to create about 200 direct jobs, 750 indirect jobs, retain nearly 300 jobs to our region, and these projects will create over 500 construction jobs as well. Our projects advance our core enabling strategies of smart growth placemaking, entrepreneurship, and workforce development, with special focus on tradable sectors like advanced manufacturing and tourism. Placemaking for economic development at the Broadway Market on the east side of Buffalo, at the long vacant Manny-Hanny Bank in Olien, and at the South End Gateway District in Niagara Falls will spur follow-on investment because these anchor projects will improve the value of location, thus raising district-wide property values. We prioritize the expansion of high-performance computing at UB Center for Computational Research because this is a nationally recognized capability that will foster entrepreneurship and software startups. The Division of Integrated Immuno-Oncology at Roswell Park Cancer Institute will create a strong R&D environment for biotech companies and become a powerhouse for patentable new discoveries. We continue to invest in workforce this year at Girard Place, which will provide training in healthcare, research, and education, and we're expanding the training center for the Sheet Metal Air Rail Transportation Union to provide more skilled trades training opportunities on Buffalo's east side. We have projects to grow manufacturing capacity and competitiveness, and we're enhancing key tourism assets like the African American Cultural Center, the Buffalo and Erie County Naval and Military Park, and the Niagara Falls Aquarium. We want to grow this important and tradable sector by giving visitors more reasons to extend their stay. And in that connection, we're investing in architectural tourism gems at all scales, from the Cattaraugus Hotel in scenic and historic village of Cattaraugus to this amazing Richardson Olmsted campus.
We know that the efforts of our REDC over the past years are working. Key indicators point to a growing and increasingly vibrant regional economy with more jobs and firms and greater productivity than just a few years ago. Since 2011, the regional economy added over 16,300 jobs, 1,600 new firms, and $3.7 billion in wages. According to the New York State Department of Labor, earnings growth for new hires in all demographic groups has increased at twice the rate as overall earnings. And we mentioned that our young population has grown by 6.8% in the region. Global export, visitor spending, and new corporation filings are also on the rise. Beyond the metrics, there's one unmeasurable thing that we can't cover in our report, but it's worth mentioning, and that's collaboration. With the governor's unprecedented investment in Western New York, success would not have been possible without the true collaboration of the Western New York region. For 6 years, the council has consistently worked for the greater good with our community and region, and the results show in the numbers we look at every day. We're grateful for the Regional Economic Development Council model because it was the catalyst to help us think together, plan together, and act together for the benefit of everyone in our region.
Well, thank you very much. We'd like to welcome your questions.
Good. Thank you. Good presentation. You seem so proud, as we are. I'm going to start the questions with Brian Stratton.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Madam Secretary, and welcome members of the Western New York REDC. It is a pleasure to be with you today. This is my first tour on the SIAT, but proud to add another acronym to the many that we know in state government. I've had the pleasure to be all over the state and certainly on our great canal system, which is celebrating its bicentennial year this year. 200 years ago, that ground was broken to begin building the Erie Canal in Rome, and it went on there and connected Buffalo and made all of our nation and all of our state great. And so I've had the opportunity to be along the canal and certainly all the way out to Buffalo. I also want to take the opportunity, Madam Secretary, to congratulate Mayor Aiello on your great DRI designation. I've had 2 tours through Olien presenting the governor's budget in your great city, and always have received a very warm welcome and have looked at the tremendous progress that you've made. So we look forward to seeing the implementation of your DRI award, very justly earned.
Thank you very much.
I'm very impressed to see that the key population segment that we are targeting, not only through the DRI, but through all across of upstate New York, millennials have grown 6.8% in your key area, and that's a remarkable achievement. And I wanted to find out, and I don't know who to direct this to, but whoever would like to take this, can you tell us what you are doing to make Buffalo and the surrounding communities relevant? We want to see not only what's happening in our downtown area, but also what is happening throughout the very large region and the multiple counties that are incorporated within the Western New York REDC.
Well, I think I'm going to lean into that one. You know, going all the way back to 2011, we talked about an economic development strategy that would be a break from the past, because what we'd been doing in the past wasn't working. And we observed that, you know, our region, and really all of upstate New York, but our region probably more than the others, had experienced sprawl without any population growth. To the contrary, we lost 10% of our population while our built environment bespread almost 100% more land. And it was just, you know, it wasn't attractive for one thing, and it wasn't affordable. Property taxes were through the roof. And so we looked at role models for success and found that, you know, there was a new paradigm in economic development that you really had to focus on people, and then the jobs would take care of themselves, if I may. And so our strategy really is a people-first strategy. You know, it's workforce development, because employers are looking for workforce right now. That's the number one reason for selecting a location, according to Area Development Magazine last November. Entrepreneurship, it's all about, well, we looked at Portland. Portland has over 1,000 high-tech startups before they built an incubator. And it's because, all these smart, educated people were moving out there, and they'd work for a while as a bar back or a barista and get tired of that. And so in order to make real work for themselves, they had to start a company. I have 2 cousins who did that in Portland after being a bar back and a barista. And then we looked at placemaking and what makes these people want to come. So smart growth became our core focus because it was really, the easiest way to put this in terms that, the people with jurisdictions such as Mayor Alio could understand. We've got to focus on the core, we've got to bring in the infrastructure, we've got to keep it affordable, and then on that we built the placemaking theme. We were well led by Howard Zemsky in those first 3 years, and he's a master of placemaking. He picked up an abandoned industrial zone here in Buffalo and turned it into one of the coolest neighborhoods. So, that really is how we're, moving the needle in terms of attracting people who look first at where they want to live, and then they decide, what they want to do there. Because frankly, they're coming out of school with so much training, they could do just about anything.
Could I mention something on this? I had mentioned collaboration, and a group that I want to make sure I mention is the Consortium of Colleges and Universities in Western New York. 21 public and private colleges and universities work together, and we just did a strategic plan that we wanted to make sure aligned with the REDC strategic plan. So we really were examining what is our role in workforce development and getting the students, particularly those who are not from the region, who come here, to find work here and to stay here. So that's one of the things that we will now be measuring. To what extent do we have people migrating into the region and into the workforce because they came through our colleges and universities?
Great.
Good.
Commissioner.
Thank you. This is a very exciting presentation. I have to say, I've spent a fair amount of time out here. Niagara Falls is my esprit city, and every time I come out, it seems like something new has happened. So thank you very much for the presentation, and I really look forward to seeing it implemented. So, of course, I'm going to ask you about workforce. Department of Labor, that's one of our main focuses, and I know you've done a lot of drilling down into, as you just said, how do you keep millennials here? How do you develop the place that they want to live and work in? Let me flip it around and talk about the workforce that lives here already. And in your Prepare Our Workforce section, you've noted that some rural areas have either no providers of training in the immediate vicinity to meet need, and in other places, there's no transportation. And I know from my own work that transportation in a rural area is critical. If you can't get to the training, it doesn't matter if the training is there. And same thing if you can't get to the job, but the training is first. So are there plans to address this issue, especially now that the labor market assessment is complete and you've identified the skill gaps that you need to fill?
Absolutely, because whether you're in a rural area, a suburban area, or in the city, transportation continues to be a major issue in this region in terms of the ability to get individuals to both those training opportunities and job opportunities. So one of the things that we've done, and it's connected to our overall strategy of placemaking, is we're trying to ensure that we create hubs around where there are not only population centers, but extensions of those hubs to be able to get individuals to those places and reward businesses as well as organizations that incorporate transportation as part of their service delivery, and creating auxiliary transportation systems that support our existing public transportation systems is something that we've been working aggressively to make sure we connect individuals to those opportunities. And the other thing is, I think, which is critical, is we want people to be able to aspire to and have the choice and the flexibility, not only during their training, but as they progress in their movement into the labor market to purchase automobiles. So one of the things we've been doing is, as we look at training providers and as we look at our opportunity agenda programming, we're looking at not only incorporating driver's education as part of that program, which many people don't receive, particularly both in the city and in our rural areas, as well as making sure that people address their financial capacity so that they can purchase automobiles at no interest versus at high interest rates. So I think our models are incorporating not only the issue of transportation, but those things that are connected to transportation that are so vital for people not only to get trained, but to be able to not only enter the workforce, but to grow in the workforce as well as grow in their economic independence.
Great, thank you.
I had a question about what you're doing, if anything special, to make sure that the winners of 43 North will stay in Western New York.
So there is a requirement. As part of 43 North, one of the requirements is that you have to stay in Western New York for at least 1 year. But although that's a requirement, we want businesses to remain in Western New York. So we shower, and I mean literally shower, these entrepreneurs with all the support systems to connect them with the region and to ensure that they're successful here. And what I hear and what I see is this is their home. This is where their businesses really took off as follow-up to the winners of 43 North. And so we're continuing not only to attract them as winners, but we're also looking at retaining them. And we have a very aggressive strategy in terms of the linkages and continuing to support their businesses, finding places and developing places where their businesses can actually be housed to grow in terms of employment as well as to produce their product or innovation. And so we've had a lot of success. All of our winners have grown. I also, on a side note, we have equity in their companies. So we're vested in them growing, and certainly we want to see them growing in Western New York. And that has happened, as well as they have attracted other people who are collateral businesses to support other people who are entrepreneurs because of their experiences in Western New York.
I also wanted to compliment the focus in this plan on Eastern Buffalo, because I think that has a lot of potential to kind of be a model for the rest of the state, based on kind of the profile of Eastern Buffalo with the kind of the density and the challenges that we see throughout the state. So I'm very excited about that. Mr. Stratton.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. I have a question about the Veterans One-Stop Center that I think was covered earlier. The region's key veterans partner. It has 2 offices within the region, Lockport and Buffalo, and one in the Finger Lakes region, just to our east, in Batavia, and is proposing a new satellite office in Niagara Falls. Can you talk about what you are doing to also expand into the southern reaches of the region?
Gosh, Chris, do you want to take the technical answer? But there is an expansion of the one-stop to Jamestown, is there not, in our?
That's right. I think in this plan, and I'll find the details for you, Commissioner, but we are expanding into Jamestown to deal with our first geographic move into the southern tier with regard to Veterans One Stop.
Yep.
Thank you.
So let me follow up on some of the training initiatives. I'm thrilled to hear about the various centers that are opening. I think that's fabulous, and I'm really looking forward to hearing how they progress, because that is a critical part of this. We know that not everybody's going to go get a four-year college education, even though the Excelsior Scholarship is now available. But the need for middle skills and the need for specific training is great. It's the thing I hear around the state, and you've obviously identified that. I'm very happy to see that one of the things you've talked about is engaging parents and children in the P through 12 educational process. Over and over and over again, the thing I hear from employers and training people and apprentices and unions is that the young people or the people coming to the training program are deficient in math and reading comprehension. Math more than anything else. So I congratulate you on focusing on the P through 12, or K through 12, but also looking at the center that's going to open in 2 years, I think, or a year and a half. It's going to be focusing
Northland Center?
Right.
September of 2018.
And it's going to be focusing on tech work. They're going to need math and reading comprehension support. And is there a program now for those workers? Because those aren't the kids in school right now. They may be in high school or they may be just out of school. But have you been able to target that population? Because the problem that we at the Department of Labor often see is the plant opens and the employer says, I can't find the workers, and we go, when did you plan to tell us? So you do have some lead time to the opening of the training center, and is there a place in this plan to make sure that those workers, first of all, know that they have to get this supportive training and then get it so they can go right into the training program?
I would say yes, yes, yes. One of the things, and one of the very exciting things about the Workforce Training Center at Northland is the fact that it will not only train the pipeline, individuals graduating from high school, but also open the doors for individuals who are coming from workforce preparation program, job readiness programs. And we have multiple partners in the region who are participating in that endeavor. It will also offer opportunities for those who are underemployed and those working maybe 2 jobs to make ends meet, because it is targeting advanced manufacturing and energy sector employment, which offer those high wage growth opportunities and will have stackable credentials. And finally, it will also address individuals whose employers want them and they need to upgrade their skills to be aligned with current technology. We've actually started the recruitment and preparation of not only the high school students, but the adults now. In fact, last Friday, we had Manufacturing Day, where we brought young people from throughout the region. It actually was a program that started in our southern region, Dream It, Do It, bringing high school students to show them, what is this thing called advanced manufacturing? We are also hosting fairs for not only young people, but their parents to go to those places so they can visibly see and learn about the career opportunities that are there for them. And we're telling them what the prerequisites are. So we're doing the math preparation at 10th grade level. We're doing the reading proficiency. We're focusing on the readiness skills. We're talking about drug testing and explaining why those things are critical. We're addressing issues of transportation and childcare and financial empowerment so that people, when they come to the center, when it opens with the 350 students, they are ready to enter and be successful. And then throughout their time in the center, there is going to be a whole series of wraparound services provided to every cohort I mentioned that is participating in the center. So we've started that work already, and we've started it with partners like my organization. We're grateful to be a partner, Goodwill, Catholic Charities, our local Workforce Investment Board. We're working with your strike force to identify people, our Educational Opportunity Center, our community-based organizations, our faith-based organizations, our providers of basic skills, the Buffalo Public Schools, the BOCES systems. We are really trying to make sure that people are aware of the opportunities and they're prepared to be successful in them. So I think we really have a very comprehensive strategy to make sure that they are prepared.
That's great, thank you. And I'm so happy that you included the local workforce development boards, because They are really an integral part of this, and sometimes they don't get looped in as much as they could be, so please use them till they're exhausted, because that's what they're there for. Thank you.
They're running a pilot program for us right now.
Great, thank you.
If I could build on that a little bit, with respect to Olien, you mentioned the southern tier, and you ask about, working with the people that we already have. I'm an employer, and it occurred to us as we were, meeting with our CEO Alliance and our Dream It, Do It board, that we employers really like to employ people who are, maybe not right out of high school. Maybe they're mid-20s, early 30s. And a lot of times these people, they might have made a bad choice early on, and then they wind up stuck in a job that, just doesn't pay enough to support their family, and they realize they need to upskill when they have a kid. So we developed a little advertisement that went out in elementary school backpacks, and it advertised certificate programs at our Manufacturing Technology Institute. And on the backside, we had a little pirate's treasure map of all the advanced manufacturers in the region. And the idea was, to reach the parents of these young kids who might be working for $10 an hour and not know that with a certificate and, some of the remedial, particularly math, skills upgrading, they could be making $15 or $20 or $25 an hour. And, so we talked about that, and we talked about how, we really want to reach these non-traditional students as well and become, the little city of second chances, if you will.
That's great. One of the things we see at the DOL with the drop in the unemployment rate is what happens is the people who are unemployed are unemployed for very significant reasons. They're harder to reemploy. And so things like your initiative are really terrific. Thank you.
We have time for one more question. Do you guys want to toss for it?
I've been talking, I'll let him go. I'll give one more. In your great report that we received prior to coming here, and it's very, very well done, you report that since 2011, the number of jobs and average annual wages in the binational logistics cluster are up. However, they are lagging behind the average increases for the rest of the state. And we're wondering if you could tell us what actions are being taken within the region to take advantage of your proximity to Canada and to engage other global partners or other global partners.
Well, I think I'll try to take that one. First of all, one thing that you're going to see about our wage data is that in many sectors, particularly the sectors that were traditionally very large employers, our rate of wage increase lags, and that's because a lot of the people in that industry are very senior workers, and then when they retire, a very new worker comes on. So, in my industry, chemistry, we might retire a $125,000 a year chemical engineer and replace them with a $75,000 new chemical engineer, and so it looks like we're paying $50,000 less, but that $75,000 is actually a pretty nice starting wage for a chemical engineer. So that's some of the math that you'll see. Now, with respect to our, binational location, Buffalo has turned out to be a very attractive location for Canadian companies wanting that USA pied-à-terre. And a number of Canadian firms have moved down just over the border and set up Buffalo offices. The rate of trade is really a function of the growth of the two economies, and I think that we're entirely keeping up, but I think we are doing a good job of attracting from Toronto as well as we are attracting from New York City right now.
If I could add just a little bit to the Canadian picture. We have a very positive relationship with the Ontario Ministry of Health. They have a socialized medicine for healthcare delivery, and many of the things that they do, newer technologies come out, and they're not set up to deliver that to their patients. And so we have, probably for the last 20 years, they would reach out to us and say, because we provided those services, we'd be happy to pay for our patients to come down and receive those services at Roswell Park until we can get our systems all in order to be able to deliver it in Ontario. Once they get their services up and running, then those patients don't come, and then there's always something else in the pipeline. Most recently, and quite interestingly, bone marrow transplants, when someone gets a bone marrow transplant, they're usually in the hospital for a month, 6 weeks, could be more. There were waiting lists in Canada for a bone marrow transplant, and they lost an 18-year-old girl who died waiting for a transplant. This caused them to reach out to us, and we have a very productive relationship with them to take their overflow of bone marrow transplants. Detroit also has a similar arrangement, but we seem to, because of our relationship is so strong, we're seeing most of these patients. It's significant. These families come and move here. They live in Kevin Guest House or in the surrounding area while they're here getting their therapy. But it's been a very productive relationship with us in Canada. So I just thought I'd mention that.
If I could just add to that on the regional export side, I think what you'll see, we're going to visit Buffalo Manufacturing Works this afternoon, the innovation side of our manufacturing strategy. In Buffalo Billion Phase 2, we're going to be working with hundreds of companies through Buffalo Manufacturing Works on export strategy. I think that part of what your question was pointing to was kind of lagging in exports given our binational position. Some of that is out of the region's control given currency situation. You're 25% discount right now in Canada, but I think it's also hard to export, especially for smaller manufacturers, of which make up the majority of the region's employers in the manufacturing sector, and probably the same true for the state. But I think we hope to address that in a very robust way in Buffalo Billion 2, working with literally hundreds of manufacturers on a regional export strategy, and then working more collaboratively with our trade center and manufacturing extension partnerships going forward.
Well, thank you all. This was really a great start to our SIAT season, and good luck.
Thank you very much. If I
Let's give them a round of applause.
Madam Secretary, if I may, I've been asked to take care of a couple of housekeeping issues this morning before we break for the tour. First, we'd like to welcome one of our other regional council members, Dr. Rosa Gonzalez, is here joining us today. We'd like to acknowledge her. Second, the hotel and the property here has been wonderful to us and a new asset to the community after multiple decades of vacancy and disrepair. So I want to acknowledge the operator of the hotel, City Inn Buffalo, Gino and Diana Principe and Dennis Murphy. They did a tremendous job hosting us today. And so I've been asked to say thanks, and I'd like to say thanks. And finally, if you'll indulge us for a minute more, I'd like to introduce Molly Quackenbush. Molly is the interim executive director here at the Richardson Olmsted campus, and she's the former executive director and superintendent of the Theodore Roosevelt inaugural site here in Buffalo. So she was going to spend a minute talking about the property and the broader campus, if that's satisfactory. Thanks. Good morning.
Can you give her a mic? Oh,
They're ahead of you.
Well, I just would like to welcome you on behalf of the Richardson Center Corporation. It's a pleasure and an honor to have you here today, and I would also like to thank our partner, Hotel Henry Urban Resort Conference Center, because they've done such a great job working with us as a partner in this restoration. Just a few things that you might not know about this development in this building. Let me share them with you. I have only been on the job as interim executive director for about a month, so I'm catching up a little bit, and I want to thank Christine Krolowicz from our staff for helping me pull this together. But the Richardson Center Corporation is a nonprofit that is redeveloping the Richardson Olmsted campus, which is this whole area. And Hotel Henry is our first tenant. This is widely considered to be one of Buffalo's most beautiful and important buildings, and it was designed by Henry Hobson Richardson, who was one of the premier American architects in the 19th century. and we're all very proud of it, of course. And this is a National Historic Landmark, and this process we're going through now with the restoration is one of the largest preservation projects in the nation. Something that's coming up later this year, or excuse me, next year, is the Lipsey Buffalo Architecture Center, which is going to open up in this Towers building. It's a new cultural organization celebrating the rich architectural heritage of this region, and it's certainly going to support economic development through tourism, which is growing through our architecture and our wonderful cultural sites. This first phase of redevelopment would not have been possible without $76.5 million from New York State and historic tax credit programs. But the historic tax credit programs helped a great deal also. And with that investment, the site is now generating property and sales tax for the first time ever.
Wow.
So that's a plus also. And this Richardson Olmsted campus is now becoming a vital part of Buffalo's economic and cultural revival, and it supports both the museum district in the area, which is the Albright Knox, the History Museum, the Birchfield Penny, all in this area, as well as the Olmsted Park system, as well as the Elmwood Village. But it is also a link to the West Side, which is having its own resurgence and is really a home for many of the refugees and immigrants who are coming to the area. And we sit right between, and I think we're really going to be a wonderful link between the two. I think I just have one more thing I want to mention. Amazingly, the current redevelopment represents only 1/3 of the plan for the 500,000 square feet and 42 acres of this Richardson Olmsted campus. To date, the South Lawn, which is out probably the opposite direction of where you came in, and 3 buildings have been restored. The Richardson Center Corporation is now searching for development partners to collaborate on the reuse of the remaining 10 buildings and 25 acres of grounds. So we have a lot of work yet to do, but we're energized and ready to go. We're actively planning for the future of this National Historic Landmark and are so glad you were here to visit with us today and see a little bit of what we've done and look forward to your continuing support. Thank you.
Thank you.